Folks, Israelis and Palestinians are once again threatening to go all in and wipe each other off the map. And it's a reminder that there is no greater unsolved geopolitical issue than the one facing the Middle East once more. Sure, there are tensions elsewhere. There are wars too. But that stretch of land encompassing Israel and Gaza remains a top problem for the world and its leaders. I've spent plenty of time reporting from there in the past. Israel, Gaza, the West Bank. I've covered 3 wars, 2009, 2012 and 2014. So I wanted to share some of my experiences, some insight into all of that. First to Israel, where folks live under the constant threat of violence, which was terrifyingly exposed on the weekend. Israel is surrounded by enemies. When I used to travel through the region, I needed 2 passports, one for Israel and one for neighbouring countries, so as not to show where I've been. Since the Jewish state was founded in 1948, its population has grown to almost 10 million. They're folks who live in a country that, for the most part, Palestinians believe has no right to exist. Over time, land has been squeezed and seized, to the point where Gaza has been reduced to a thin strip of coastal land on the Mediterranean that's often described as the world's largest open-air prison. It's ruled by Hamas, declared by the US, the European Union, Australian government and others as a terrorist organisation because of its armed resistance. Gaza is where attacks are planned and carried out from. Again, is what we saw on the weekend. Every few years, violence flares up. Militants or terrorists in Gaza fire built-up stockpiles of rockets into Israeli territory. Often they're intercepted by the Iron Dome defence shield, but many of those missiles still get through, which causes death and destruction on Israeli territory. Sirens and alarms often sound and people flee into bomb shelters that are scattered all over the country, in buildings, homes, kibbutzes, or simply on the side of the road. Having ran into a few of those shelters before, I can tell you it's very unnerving. And this is what people regularly face. And that's separate from land assaults by terrorists or militants who emerge from Gaza's vast network of underground tunnels to carry out deadly attacks. Now, on the Palestinian side of things, when Israel launches retaliatory strikes, the death toll becomes so much greater because 2 million people packed into that tiny strip of land. I've seen much more sophisticated weaponry used and have felt the sheer force of those Israeli missiles. The buzzing of overhead drones provides an almost constant soundtrack to daily life. So many lives are lost in attacks because the buildings are built so close together. Whole families can be wiped out in an instant, including many children. I've seen all of this, and the overflowing morgues. The Israeli military says it tries to avoid family homes, but the problem for them is that Hamas often operates out of mosques, out of schools, out of hospitals, knowing that's where Israel could strike. Sometimes Hamas disturbingly uses innocent people as human shields. There is so much more to this. My recollections are just a fraction of how life plays out on both sides in that part of the world. It's the vicious cycle, and because long-term solutions are never found, that cycle of violence continues to the point where we are at now, where war has once again returned. And you just know, once this war ends, in time, another one will emerge. See you next week.